What is going on, fellow alchemists? Welcome to Astrology. Today we are talking about the moon in the 7th house and the moon in Libra. But firstly, just want to thank all my new subscribers. Thank you for joining up and subscribing to my channel. It really is appreciated. And I think we should just get stuck into this one. It is the moon in the 7th house and the moon in Libra. So the moon in the 7th house and the moon in Libra. What happens when the moon comes and sits in either the sign or the house that the sign rules over? Because as we all know, Libra rules over the 7th house. Well, it's pretty simple. It's a very sexual position to have. Remember, the 7th house is the angular house. It's one of the angular houses. There's 4 angular houses in the chart. This is the cardinal house as well. All the angular houses are attributed to the cardinal houses. And the 7th house is a cardinal angular air sign because it's ruled over by the air sign of Libra. And so what we see here is we see the rulership of Venus, and in esoteric astrology we see the rulership of, surprise, surprise, none other than Saturn. Because what happens in the 7th house in esoteric astrology, we have the esoteric rays. The esoteric rays are about a specific metaphysical influence that our solar system or a specific sign is emitting into our physical reality. And in this case, that esoteric ray is the 3rd ray of active intelligence, Brahman. This is the ability to commute and think and ponder and basically divulge and dissolve all of the information around you and then bring that in and find ways to express that and to deal with it and to use it in order to understand and interact with everything around you. So that is the 3rd ray of active intelligence. And what happens is in the 7th house, we find the descendant. Now, the descendant is a very important placement in the chart. And in fact, I will actually make a video on how one can use the ascendant better to understand the general overlook appearance of yourself and appearance to others, because the ascendant deals with your relationships, it deals with your business dealings, it deals with your partnerships. Why is that? It's because Venus, which in Vedic astrology has been named, or is one of the many names of Shukra, has one of the many names of Shukra. And Shukra is the seminal fluid, it's the mixture, it's the juices of the sexual fluids that are used and basically excreted during the sexual process. So that's a very, very, very important very important fact in what I want to touch on here, because this is all about, the 7th house is all about the partnerships and coming into contact and mixing with other people, your descendant. But at the same time, the 7th house pulls from the same polarity as the 1st house. And remember, the 1st house is the house of self. And so anything that sits in the 1st house influences the 7th house. But a lot of the time what happens is a lot of people see the 7th house as that outward expression into the world, what they're looking for, the energies they're trying to attract, because they attracted that energy, but they don't know that those energies are very much a part of who they are. It's just something that they're not very consciously aware of. And so they tend to gravitate towards people, and people who have these energies that they're looking for in the 7th house tend to contain this type of energy and this expression. But I always say, and this is why I really need to touch on the 7th house later down the line, is that this is all where we see the idea that you only attract people who see the same energy through you. So anything sitting in the 7th house, in this case the moon, you attract the people who might have similar characteristics and personalities, but that's only because they see something similar in you. So when the moon, Chandra, is in one of these in the sign of Libra or in the 7th house, what is the moon? Firstly, I'll touch on that. The moon in mundane astrology is always attributed to our emotions and our reactions. The idea is that when you have a reaction to when you react to something, the emotions generate. Even the idea of thought, you think of something, you panic about something, and the reason you're panicking is because you've just thought about something that might come. Or you might regret something because you've just thought about something that has been. So that's the mundane level of astrology in regards to what the moon rules over. But at the higher echelons, in the higher expression, and in esoteric astrology, the moon represents our ability to basically use the lunar channels to utilize the connective nature of the moon. Remember, the lunar energy is very connective. It basically pulls on everything. And so this is our way of entering through the lunar energy into other different realms and higher ethereal realms, and then encompassing that energy and using that energy. And that is why the moon is a very useful at being psychic, and very useful at mediumships and all of the abilities of moving outside of the physical reality and interacting with more of the ethereal realms, or more of the higher dimensional aspects that surround us as a whole. So when the moon is sitting in the 7th house or in Libra, what we see that ability of Venus. It's kind of like a Venus-Moon conjunction here, because we're seeing Shukra, the seminal fluids, mixing with the moon that rules over sexual reproduction. This is something that always needs to be pointed out. The moon actually rules over the process of sexual reproduction. And so this is and of course in Vedic astrology, the moon is very masculine, Chandra, but in tropical astrology, the moon's very feminine. It's all up to you how you wish to interpret that. But the idea is that all of that energy mixing with that Venetian influence, that angular cardinal nature of the 7th house and the angular cardinal nature of Libra, mix together and really swoon together and bring out this marvelous sensual sexual energy, you know, that can be used specifically and really well in the tantric abilities to usher in new tantric sexual transformation. You know, because what happens is that because Saturn rules over in esoteric astrology the 7th house and Libra, what we see is that Saturn is the doorkeeper to the occult. So there's a huge ability here to utilize that moon in the 7th house or the moon in Libra to become a tantric, almost a tantric goddess in your own way, or this manifestation of the tantric goddesses operating through you into the physical realm. And that can apply to guys too, because remember, gender is, regardless of how conservative you are, the expression of gender is always quite fluid. And the whole point here is about utilizing that energy, utilizing those emotions to finally ooze into the crevices, ooze into the nature of the sexual exploits, but also just being that in your sensual self and oozing into yourself as well. That is a very prominent and powerful ability that comes with the moon in the 7th house and the moon in Libra. So fellow alchemists, I hope you really enjoyed that one. That was the moon in Libra. Please don't forget to subscribe, drop a like down below, go into the comment section down below, tell us what it's like having the moon in Libra and the moon in the 7th house. And until next time, when I do the moon in the 8th house and the moon in Scorpio, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.